Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Zen. In these videos, I guide you through creating a monotangle, so a single pattern or a single tangle in each video. I am using my Micron PN plastic nib pen. I have a graphite pencil and a blending tool called a tortillon. I'm also using these little 2" by 2" tiles. These are called the bijou tiles, and all of these materials are available at zentangle.com. You can also use a pen and a pencil you have on hand, any kind of a sketchbook or scrap paper. You do not need these specific materials to follow along with this video. Okay, today's tangle is called Condor, and it is by Susie, and I'm not going to say the last name because I know that I will pronounce it wrong, but I don't think that she is a CZT. If she is, please let me know in the comments and I will change the title of this video. But Susie has created this beautiful leafy pattern called Condor, and I thought I would show you how to make it. Okay. When I do these little 15-minute videos, I do not start on a practice sheet, but if you would like to do it in your sketchbook first and then bring it to a tile later, you can. All right, let's begin with our pencil, and we're going to put a dot in each of the 4 corners, and they're going to go in just a little bit from each corner, like that. Then with my pencil, I'm going to connect those so lightly, and I'm doing it lightly so that my pattern is free to go outside the edges of these lines, and they would be erasable if I wanted to erase them later. Okay, now I have this cute little frame, and I'm going to pick up my pen. So we are just coming off of our May florals where we did 20 days of flowers, and I'm just still kind of in that mode of summer and flowers and growth, and so this is a leaf pattern, and I just think it fits perfectly well what we've already been working on. Okay, I'm going to begin in the middle and at the bottom of my little frame here. And I'm going to make a curved line that goes up and over like that. It does not touch the edge. It just kind of goes up and over. All right, so to create this pattern, the first step is this little curved line. The next step is to come off the top and give a little bump that stays pretty close to this line. So it's going to go like that, almost like a little finger. And then from there, we're going to give it a belly and then come back down to this point. So to do the belly, I do not want to just come out at like a right angle. I want to curve it a little and then go out and then curve back in. So I kind of curve, go out, and curve back in. Okay. The next part of this little leaf is this additional little bump that starts below the top, comes out just a little bit, and tucks back in. And by doing that, we give it this element of like a 3-dimensional leaf, or maybe we can see kind of the back side of it, or it's curving. I don't know exactly what it's doing, but I know that my brain feels like it's more 3-dimensional or maybe has some more movement with this cute little addition. So we're going to do that. And then from here, where we made kind of that little finger spot, I'm going to come off of that and I'm going to come down to the point. Then I'm going to go out a little bit and come down to the point, out a little bit and come down into that point. Now I've added a little bit of striping, and if I want, I could do another one. So that is Condor. So all by itself like that, it has a really cute, elegant flow to it. But when we add some shading and we add more to it, we can make some really beautiful pieces. Okay, I'm gonna let that one just stay there for a moment. We can embellish it and shade it a little bit later. But now I'm going to pretend like this is like the leaf at the bottom of the stem. And I'm gonna go up it and give a stem that just kind of goes up, not all the way to the top, but up a little ways. And then I'm gonna come down to, maybe halfway into this first little leaf, and I'm gonna make a curve that goes out this way. And I'm trying to use up some space. So I have this whole corner here to play with. So I really want this to reach out and go almost to the edge, almost to where this frame starts. So if I want, I could even make it a little bit longer. And now I'm going to do that little bump that comes down almost like a finger. But I'm going to go right into that scoop, that belly, and that scoop down here. But when I scoop back, I want to scoop back to the point that I started. I don't want it to end down here and be a big, thick piece. I want it to have that nice point. So I'm going to do my little bump that's kind of like a finger. I'm going to give it a nice big belly and then scoop back to that line. So depending on how wide you make this first part and how wide you make this part, you can really play with the shape of these. I'm going to do a stem coming off this way. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do that little finger part, that belly part, and then tuck back in to that point. Okay, let's add some details to these two. So I'm going to go over here to that first little curve I made. I'm going to give that little bump out, and same on this side, that little bump. From this little inset, I'm going to come down. I like to curve like towards the bump, but I don't think it matters. You can do whatever you want. I also like up here to leave it wide, but come into a point down here. And you could play with that and see what you like best. Maybe you don't want these to be apart. Maybe you want that like little tethered aura. I'll do that on this one. So by that, I mean we started a point here and come down, started the point, touch the point, point to point. So you get a little bit different look when you go point to point versus leaving some space. So you play, you decide. Okay, I'm going to do another one up here, but this time I'm going to do my curve. Instead of curving like this way, I'm going to curve that way. So my initial bump is kind of towards facing the bottom of the tile. So now I could do my finger and my bump over here, or I can do it on this side. So a little bump, a belly, and in. Give that little bump on the side. I'm going to do one more up here. So I'm just extending this line out. I'm going to do a small little belly and then tuck in. See how you can change how that looks. Give that bump on the opposite side. Then we add in some little lines over here, tethered or not. And maybe you only have room for a couple of lines. That's okay. If you want to embellish, you can take one of these sections and add some little circles or orbs inside, and look at how beautiful that looks. It doesn't have to be in the center section, it can be anywhere. Look how pretty. Maybe you just want to do some little dashes instead of circles. Maybe you want to ink in one of those sections. Could do that over here. I could just ink this in. So many ways to embellish it and play with it. Before we do some shading, I'm going to add some fescue. So fescue is these little lines that curve up and have a teardrop or a raindrop on the top. And I like using those to fill in some of the spaces. Could even curve down a little bit to fill in a space down here. And I want to trace my frame. If any of my little petals went over the frame, then I would just lift my pen and jump up over it. But fescue, you don't really need to lift your pen because it's all full of dark ink anyway. I feel like I want one to go over here and cross over. So pretty. I'm going to do another one over here, and I'm going to let it cross right over that leafy petal. Okay, I hope that wasn't too tricky. We did one little pattern, but we did it multiple times. And I think it looks so pretty and so organic. Whenever I have a pattern like this that's kind of growing up out of the ground, I like to take the points where each of those leaves or petals are touching that stem, and I just add a little bit of graphite to the bottom of them. And with my blending tool, I push it up just slightly into that pattern. And already that gives it a little bit of depth. Just that tiny bit does so much. Can also go on the inside edge of these bumps over here. So this little inside edge, and I'm going to soften it just a tiny bit, not fill that whole space, but look at that little bit of a shadow and how that gives that a little bit of depth, as if that little bump is maybe behind the plant. So I'm just giving a little line and a little bit of a smudge. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to go on the inside edge of the whole frame. And this is going to take that single line frame and give it some depth. And it's going to make it look like this little plant is maybe sitting back inside there and the little frame is sticking out front a little bit. So I'm pointing to the line with my blending tool. I'm softening it and pulling it out a little bit, but still leaving lots of white space. You could also take your blending tool that already has now a little bit of graphite, and you can stick some in these little crevices where they curve to kind of give a little shadow. Just if you want to. If you have these big belly things sticking out, you can add a little bit of graphite on them to give them a little bit of a curve. Mine aren't very big. I don't really have room for that. And then we always initial our work. I like to do mine in the corner, KJB. And there we go. Our cute little bijou mono tangle of Condor. I love this one. And I might even go back and add some little fescue to the outside edges or crisscrossing into the middle. I don't know, I just love what that adds. On the back, I have the name and the artist, and then I will date it as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm hoping to release more of these each Friday throughout the summer. I also have a couple hundred on a playlist called 15 Minutes of Zen if you'd like to go back and watch them. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.